Hello, everybody. Senior reporter Brad Johnson here with Comptroller Glenn Hegar.
Good to
Welcome
be with
back.
you. Good to be with you
again. We did this 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
Now we're running it back.
It's like a tradition now.
Yeah, and I think last time you told me about some record financial numbers coming in. Any update there?
Yeah, absolutely. While we may not have a historical, unprecedented, once in a lifetime looking at budget surplus in Texas because the economy had overperformed. Obviously, 2 years ago we were dealing with Biden economics, 40-year high inflation. So in other words, if you bought something for $100 the year before, now it was $110. Well, that extra $10 in sales tax, it added up, and and unfortunately, to people's pockets, coming out of their pockets thanks to the administration. And so the point being, all that added up to where Texas was positioned with the biggest amount that we had ever had, which was enabled the legislature to fund record high property tax relief, do investment in structure in roads, water, internet connectivity, things that we use every day, right?
Yeah.
Like that we as conservatives
that you don't really think about.
No, that you don't think about, and you think the government actually should fund the things that government should do. And so the legislature did some really good things last session. And then now, while I may not be able to say it's historical, unprecedented, once in a lifetime, still Texas, as a comparison to, I don't know, pick another state. Want to? How about California, right? Where we're looking at about a $19 billion surplus right now in Texas. They, guess what? They're at another deficit. Imagine that, And so compare and contrast a good economy, not a good economy, one that's run red, one versus blue, and the fact is people are moving away from there every day just because they're under the pressure of government.
Yeah. One of those things that the legislature passed was the Rural Law Enforcement Fund, and your office is, along with many other things, tasked with administering that.
Yes.
How's that been going?
Yeah, no, it's going really good. I mean, I was really glad that the legislature decided that one of the things that government should do and people expect the taxpayers is their own personal security. Funding law enforcement, we don't want to be the East and the West Coast where people are coming in with these organized retail crime or other situations. We want to support our men and women in the uniform.
Yeah.
And so therefore the legislature, knowing that rural parts of Texas may not have the tax base and the funding capability, so we as the taxpayers of the state are helping supplement those salaries, make sure we have good qualified people that are wanting to stay on the beat, do the job to protect our communities. And so therefore the legislature gave me a new task. What a surprise. And so we stood up
just
this.
The jack of all trades.
We're just a jack of all trades. We do all kinds of things. So, they get, which I appreciate, they give us the confidence that we're going to stand this program up.
Yeah.
And so with that, we have stood up. We had issued the first amount of funding, over $100 million, are going out to both law enforcement as well as prosecutors to be able to add supplements so we have good prosecutors in local communities. And that program's going well. Now, of course, there might be some disagreements on the local level.
Yeah.
In other words, say the sheriff or the prosecutor said, well, just give it to me in my budget. I don't want to go through commissioner's court. Well, we're not getting involved in the local disputes and fights, okay?
First of all, there's too many of them to deal with,
there's too many of them. There's 254 of them across.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or there might be the local auditors, we're going to account for it this way because we got to financially make sure we're transparent. And so there's a few of those fights, and that's okay. That's part of the process. But the point is, they may complain, well, I want it in my pocket versus Brad's pocket. Well, the fact is we're sending it to the county. Y'all make sure it gets where it's supposed to because that's what the taxpayers expect.
Yeah.
And let's make sure we have secure communities, which is what we all want.
And it may not have been the primary purpose, but it was at least part of the thinking behind this. The border situation, right?
That's right.
A lot of the counties down there have very little money, and they're dealing with a flood of illegal immigrants. This is going to be very important for them. Right?
It is an enormous help to those communities. And as we know, almost 4 years ago, when this administration was coming in, it's almost as though the gates were opened up.
Yeah.
And we had just enormous numbers of people overwhelming our border, overwhelming our local people in those communities, homes being broke into, trash scattered across their properties, things that were never seen before.
Yeah.
And law enforcement did not have the capable tools to deal with it. And so this gives them another tool in the toolbox. It may not be the whole set of tools, but it's another tool in the toolbox to keep our communities safer.
Another more national issue, although it obviously applies to Texas as well, that you've been talking about a lot is ESG. The legislature's done a number of things.
Right.
There were a couple bills that were proposed during session last year that did not pass. what's the next step for Texas in this issue?
So, I think the fact is we have done a really good job at leading this. So, for example, it's amazing. There's this ESG, which is environmental, social governance. Governance has been around forever. I mean, it's how you keep your books. I mean, that's not a big deal. But the E and the S, they're really just kind of this opaque, unclear, kind of nobody really knows what they mean. Essentially, it's just political.
The goalposts shift constantly.
It's the left. It's what they want it to be, right? And so, for example, the legislature asked me several sessions ago, said, hey, can you go identify those companies that are financial institutions that are quote-unquote boycotting the oil and gas industry? And so therefore we did that. And the point being is we were the first step. We took that first major step to kind of push back against that wokeism, that leftism, and other states have followed suit. And so we have changed the conversation. Now there is more of a balance. It's almost like if you're watching a football game, there's an offense and a defense. Well, if there's no defense, guess what? The left gets to do what they want. And so now there's actually a defense, and it's really having a significant impact. We're seeing the conversation change with a lot of these entities being like, oh, no, we need to back away. And so there's entities getting out of these international woke agreements. They are also funding industries more like they're supposed to and dealing with what they are supposed to is their fiduciary duty, is making a return for investors. And so I think really the next step is just continuing to be vigilant and doing what we're doing. And what I'm trying to make sure is people understand the connectivity, for example, to the oil and gas industry. I made the comment at some one-on-one interview not too long ago, the lady was far to the left and we're going to get rid of all the oil and gas in the entire world. And it's kind of like this when I said, well, you see these cables right here that the wires are in, that we're talking to people can hear us. That's a petroleum product, right? The cup that you're drinking out of for your coffee is a petroleum product. You realize that the glasses you're looking at me with, the frames are held in there because of what? A petroleum product. Do you drive an electric vehicle? And she said, yes, I do. I said, do you realize over 2,000 components on that electric vehicle are made out of what? A petroleum product. If it wasn't for the petroleum product, you wouldn't have a chair to sit on. You'd have to sit on a wood peg, and that wouldn't be very comfortable now, would it? So the point is there's no connectivity. Exactly. Where does the electricity? And so I'm trying to make the point to people, the connectivity, to realize a lot of our life is touched by that. And it wouldn't be the economic opportunities we have today if we didn't continue to have that as part of our daily life.
I've seen some numbers from business groups that are not a fan of the ESG laws, estimating the commerce, the dollars lost because of these, companies not coming here or lessening their business footprint here. What do you make of that?
Yeah, a couple things. One, there was a study done earlier before we even implemented the law. And so, that one kind of makes me laugh because it was assumption on assumption on assumption. They didn't even know what the rules were. So if you don't even know the rules, how can you estimate what it's going to cost? So it was made up numbers is what it was. And then more recently, we had the Texas Association of Business put something out and just found out this last week that the basis of some of their numbers, they were wrong. I mean, the data on bond review board, which we set on. So part of that is our mistake. We didn't catch one number that should have been changed, a couple of numbers. And so now if you look at their study, there is no additional cost. And so, really I was telling my team, I said, one, we need to tell the reporter who wrote the story, we need to say, hey, we found this error, and the basis upon their whole study is just vanished. It's gone. And so, part of it, I told my team, I said, yeah, that was part on us. We should have caught it like other layers caught it. But, big data, lots of numbers, sometimes a number gets missed, right? It happens. But as soon as you find it, you catch it. That's transparency. But number two, it also shows you that just as a good reporter, if Glenn Hegar tells you something, are you going to take him at face value or go double check? You do your diligence, right? You're going to make sure that what Glenn said is the real facts. You're going to double and triple check. That's what a good reporter or a study does, and they didn't do that. So that's on them. So, really what's amazing to me is all these are just made up numbers. They're made up numbers. And I just think that's disingenuous. And it's not open and transparency, which is what you, I, the voters, and the taxpayers expect, and that's what we deserve.
Real quick, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. You're not running for re-election next cycle. What's next for you?
I don't know.
Anything on the horizon?
No. I'm just kind of looking at it as it comes. I've been blessed to be able to do this job, and we're just got our head down doing our job, and we'll worry about all that coming on another day.
Well, you got more than enough tasks to take keep yourself
Yeah,
busy
we got
in the
plenty to
meantime.
do. We got plenty to do.
All right.
Appreciate
Comptroller,
the friendship. Good to be with you again.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.